Hi there, my name is Sasha from The Balanced Canine. Today I'm going to take you through how to do a rear end taping. There's a few different rear end tapings that you can do depending on the condition of the dog. So it's really important that you actually get a vet diagnosis first so you can actually find out why your dog is weak in the rear. There are a number of reasons why it happens. Anything from, say, the guys this big, this is Gav, he's actually quite a big Great Dane as it is. They can be a little bit awkward, not terribly balanced, they don't necessarily always have the best core strength, and so that can cause them to redistribute their weight in not a great way, which can mean that they can end up with being a bit weak in the rear. You know, they're just not utilising their muscles the way that they're meant to. And different dogs can do that for different reasons. Agility dogs can do it because, you know, they've hit the ground in a funny way, they've turned a corner too tight, you know, a little niggle can turn into something else. So, you know, as I said, it's important to get a diagnosis of why the dog is weak in the rear. Now, I use rock tape. Rock tape in the two different sizes that we use. We always use the equine rock tape because it has extra adhesive on it. And if you're not using the one with extra adhesive, or you are going to tape a dog that is going to be very active, such as a performance dog, you're going to want to use an additional adhesive spray. Okay, so depending on the size of the dog, this is a big daddy. This is a 10 centimeter wide tape. Now, I've used this tape for different tapings on big dogs like Gav. This is also used primarily on horses, and also the size and vet conditions on humans as well. The size that I'm going to use a lot is the standard size tape, and it's the 5 centimeter wide tape. Okay. Now, how this tape actually works is it decompresses. So if you can imagine, it has a lifting effect, and not to get too much into the science of things, it supports the muscle structure, and because of that lifting effect, it helps with pain relief as well. Now, I've got a little dog in the background that you can see just doing a little hobble down the stairs here. She actually has a rod in her leg, so we actually tape the opposite shoulder that takes all the strain from that weight, from the rotted leg, and that provides a great support. So there's lots of different ways that you can use the tape. Now, I'm going to show you how we're going to measure the tape, but the taping that we're going to use today is we're going to use an I strip, which, like the letter I, it's just going to be straight up and down. And we're actually around the corners, and the reason that we do this, we're just going to cut off the corners to make it nice and round, is so they don't catch on anything. Dogs that are rolling around on their beds, or the dogs are scratching at themselves, just day-to-day life. If the corners aren't rounded, then they catch on more things and they're going to lift more so. Okay, so rounding them actually helps the tape stay longer where you want it. Now, the tape itself is going to last anywhere from a couple of hours to a couple of days to 10 days. It really depends on the coat of the dog. If it's got any oils on it, you really want to have a nice clean coat. Either wash the dog or use something like a rubbing alcohol or something like that to clean the coat. You want to be putting this on fresh, clean, dry coat so it sticks for as long as you need it to stay, which on average is about 2 to 3 days. Okay. We also use what we call anchor points. So when we actually do the taping, we'll actually use some more tape just to pop on the ends as an anchor, just so it kind of more support to keep it there for a little bit longer. So the anchors may lift a bit, but the core part of the taping is actually remaining in place. Alright, I'm just going to go pop off and find Gavin, the Great Dane, so we can show you a rear end taping. Okay, so we're about to start doing our taping for our rear end. I'm going to use Camo and also the Silver Fern. Very cool. Now, taping does come in different patterns. If you're anything like me, you love different patterns. But typically people just keep to the same colour. I like to spice it up a little bit. Alright, so what I've actually done with Gav here is I've actually put a spray adhesive on him. His coat is quite slick, even though it doesn't have any other oils in it, and so it can lift the tape quite early on. So what I've done is I've sprayed it, I've just left it to dry, and now we're going to measure him. Gav! Good boy! Now you're going to want to use non-stick scissors. they're a little bit more expensive, but otherwise your standard scissors are going to get a little bit gummy if you continue to use them with tape. Okay, so you take your dog, you measure the area which you're going to be using. Okay, so if you find the ilium, the hip bone, okay, so imagine if the dog was really skinny and you can see its hip bones pointing up, that's the area that we're going to go from, just in front of it, about 5 centimetres in front of it. And then we're just going to go down to the other hip bones. If they're really skinny, you'll be able to see them. The bum bones. We're going to go just further down, probably about 10 centimetres, oh yeah, about 10 centimetres past that. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold, actually I'm not going to fold that over. If I was keeping the same tape, I'd actually fold that over to create 2 strips. But I'm actually only going to use 1 strip on this, because I like to have different colours. So I'm going to take my camo, measure it against my silver fern one. Okay, cool. So now we have 2 what we call eye strips. You're going to take off the ends. So just okay, so you don't have sharp ends that are going to catch on their bedding, their coats. When you're walking them, the lead can rub up against them and things like that. You know, all different reasons for why tape can lift. Gavin, come sit here. Good boy. Thank you very much. Okay, now why rock tape is very cool is because it decompresses, right? To decompress, it has to be able to stretch. And when we're doing the rear end taping, we can use a stretch of anywhere between 0 and 50%. I'm going to use around about 20 to 30% stretch in this. And the easiest way to get your head around the stretch is to stretch it fully when you don't have the tape on it, so you know what's 100%, and then let it go a little bit, so you can kind of figure out what's 10%, what's 20%, and so forth. Now the ends of the tape can never have any stretch on them. You just need to lay them flat, okay? Because if you put stretch on them, they're going to lift really quite bad. So about 5 centimetres worth. So here's the end of our tape, and you just rip, okay, like that. You see you can stretch. Cool. Okay, so this bit I'm just going to lay flat on the dog. Okay, then I'm going to hold that. I'm going to peel this back. I'm going to lay it along the line where I want it to go. Okay, so just in front of the hip bones, the side of the spine, no stretch. Put down. Now you're just going to rub it nicely to activate the adhesive. Okay, it takes about 20 minutes for the adhesive to fully, I guess you could say dissolve maybe. Okay, so now what we're going to do, you see where the tail is? We're going to come down here just past the hip bones there. Gap, stand. It's easier when you have a second person. And I'm going to apply around about the 20-30% stretch. Gavin, just stand still please. Thank you. And then when we get to the end, that 5 centimetre bit like we had at the front, we're not going to apply any stretch there either. Okay, so I'm at that last bit, so no stretch. We're going to rub. Now he is quite funny about his rear, so not all dogs are going to do this, but I actually like to use this narrow tape, the 5 centimetre tape on him versus the Big Daddy one, because I think sometimes it's just too much sensation for them to start with, so kind of build up. Good boy. Okay, now we're talking about anchor points, so I could put another piece of tape here with no stretch just across this bit if I wanted to, just to hold this bit here longer. Okay, and also up the top. Right, we're going to turn him around. Good boy. Alright, so again, I've taken the end bit off. This is the bit that we're going to place with absolutely no stretch. Okay, stand. Good boy. last end bit, no stretch. Give it a bit of a rub. Now, if they feel weird about it, come. Just reassure them, okay? Some might start spinning their tail, spinning to catch their tails, or just kind of freaking out a little bit. Just reassure them, give them treats, let them know everything's okay. If they're really not coping, you're gonna need to take the tape off. I haven't had to take the tape off before, off a dog. I've just had to reassure the more sensitive ones that it's okay, you'll be all right. You know, treats, they work a treat. All right, so now we've got our tape on. You can see where it is. So it starts just past the hip bones, come down the side of the spine, down the side of the tail, past the hip bones on the bum, and then just a little bit further down from there. What do you do now? Nothing. You can just leave the tape on the dog, or you can work out with it on, okay? And this is probably best practice, incorporating a strength training program into using the tape as well. Okay, so you can speak to your therapist about that, you can send us a message and we can see if we can help you from a distance if you're not in Sydney. So do all your normal things. Do your walking, your obedience, your agility, all those normal things while the dog still has its tape on. Okay, I hope this has helped you. Hi there, Sasha here from the Balance Canine. What I'm going to show you now is actually how to remove the tape if it hasn't lifted already by itself and is easy to remove. Some people use oil, I use rubbing alcohol, whatever's going to be kindest to the dog's skin. I'm not going to use oil in this case because I'm actually going to retape him really soon. Okay, good boy. Come. Alright, so what we can see here is that Gav actually has some rear end tape on. When you remove the tape, you always want to go in the direction of the hair as well, for obvious reasons. Gabby, good boy. Good. Stand. So what I'm going to do first, you might want to have somebody stand with you and hold the dog, is I'm just going to test it. It's not too bad. He's a little bit sensitive around his rear end. He actually has a cyst under his tail, and anything that you do with him, with his rear end, Gav, his first reaction is actually to go to the underside of his tail. Good boy, very good. Gonna get a bit sensitive here. Okay, so I'm just stopping there because that's actually where it's a bit sensitive. Good boy. Good. Gav. There's no reason why you can't use some treats in this process as well. Good. So I'm only going to do it to where it's easy. Where it starts to get a little bit harder, where I am right now, is when I want to start to use rubbing alcohol. Gav, turn around. Good boy. Good boy. Alright. It's okay. Come. Okay. Stop. Alright, some dogs don't like sprays, so you might want to sponge it. Good boy, Gav. Good boy. Good boy. Very good. Nice work. That's so good. Well done, Gav. Very good. You're right. Good boy. Yay! Well done. Alright, you don't want to make this a negative experience with the tape coming off. They are going to associate tape with negative stuff. To definitely use treats. Gav here is a little bit more experienced at dealing with having tape on and off. I usually leave the tape on until it really comes away by itself. Tape can be left on from anywhere from just a few hours to up to 10 days. Most taping's done for 2 to 3 days, and that's generally what we like to see in dogs anyway. That's sort of the minimum that we're looking at.